My daughter-in-law rose from her seat at our family dinner, lifted her champagne flute, and declared to the entire table, "Here's to Margaret, always hungry for attention and free food." Laughter rippled around the room like a wave. I reached into my purse, withdrew a stack of business cards, and slid one across the linen cloth toward her. "Actually, Sarah, I'm hungry for a new head of sales. You're fired. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're tuning in from." Let me rewind and explain how we arrived at this moment. My name is Margaret Whitman. I'm 73 years old, and until 3 hours ago most people believed I was simply a lonely widow scraping by on Social Security. What they never suspected was that I held 67% of the company. Sarah imagined she was conquering. It began 5 years earlier when my son, David, met Sarah. She was a junior sales representative at Thompson Marketing, fresh from business school with an MBA and ambition that could electrize a small metropolis. David fell hard from the first date. She embodied everything he thought he desired: beautiful, driven, accomplished. Or so we all assumed. "Mom, you'll adore Sarah," he confided over coffee that initial week. "She's got phenomenal business instincts. She's already the top salesperson at her firm." I smiled and nodded, truly delighted for his joy. After losing his father to cancer 2 years prior, David deserved happiness. The first time I met Sarah, she arrived at my modest suburban house in a designer suit, eyes glued to her phone. Commenting on the cute little neighborhood, she was courteous enough, yet I caught her eye roll when David mentioned my volunteer work at the community center. "That's sweet," she said with a patronizing grin. "Everyone needs hobbies." She had no idea I'd been operating a thriving consulting practice for decades. Whitman Strategic Solutions had guided more than 200 businesses to higher profits, streamlined operations, and negotiated treacherous markets. We were compact, efficient, and extraordinarily lucrative. When David and Sarah got engaged after 2 years together, she demanded the wedding at the country club. "David deserves the best," she proclaimed as if I'd protest. I wrote the check without hesitation, thrilled to see my son wed the woman he loved. Trouble surfaced almost immediately. Sarah critiqued everything: my wardrobe, my car, my decor. She dropped subtle barbs at family dinners about updating my style or trying harder with my looks. David would chuckle nervously and switch topics. "Maybe we should get you a smartphone. Mom, Sarah proposed one Thanksgiving. It might connect you to the modern world." Her tone made me sound prehistoric, but I swallowed my pride. David's contentment outweighed my ego. 2 years into their marriage, Sarah secured what she dubbed her dream role as head of sales at Preston Industries, a mid-sized consulting firm. She bragged incessantly. Every conversation featured updates on her commissions, her new office, or her blueprint to overhaul their sales approach. "I'm going to revolutionize that place," she announced at our monthly family dinner. "Their current team hasn't a clue. I'll likely run the entire company in 5 years." That's when I recognized the firm she described. Preston Industries wasn't merely any competitor, it was my fiercest rival. If Sarah now led their sales, the game was about to intensify. Sarah's triumphs at Preston became the sole topic at our gatherings. Each month delivered fresh tales of her conquests, delivered with mounting arrogance. "I closed the Henderson account last week," she declared one Sunday, slicing her steak with theatrical flair. "Largest sale in company history." They claimed it impossible, but I delivered. David glowed with pride. "Tell Mom about the bonus $50,000, Sarah added, studying my reaction. "Cash, plus a company car and profit-sharing talks." She leaned back, savoring what she mistook for my awe. What she witnessed was my mental ledger. The Henderson account: I'd courted them for 3 years. My team laid the groundwork, cultivated the relationship, pinpointed their needs, Preston swooped in with an aggressive bid and snatched the contract. "That's splendid, dear," I replied, refilling my water. "Competition sharpens us all." Sarah's smile flickered. She'd anticipated gasps, queries about her brilliance. Instead, I treated it like weather chatter. Over the following months, Sarah's narratives grew more grandiose. She was single-handedly reshaping Preston's operations, recruiting clients, redesigning processes, eyed for partnership. "The other reps despise me, naturally," she said with smug delight. "They're envious because I'm demonstrating the real way. Old-school tactics are obsolete," I nodded courteously. Yet inwardly I tallied losses. 3 major clients had defected from my firm to Preston in 6 months. The pattern repeated. Sarah approached them armed with insider details about their operations. Details only someone intimately familiar with their challenges could possess. I'd never shared those specifics beyond my company. So Sarah was either a research savant or receiving aid from someone with confidential access. "Mom, you should seek Sarah's business counsel," David urged one evening while clearing dishes. "She truly understands this arena. She could assist your volunteer projects." Sarah laughed, a crystalline clink. "David, your mother's community center efforts are charming, but they're hardly high stakes. I negotiate $1 million deals and intricate talks. Different league." That's when I launched my own investigation. I phoned my attorney, Marcus Whitman, no relation, despite the surname, and requested he probe Preston's recent maneuvers. Marcus had managed my legal affairs for 15 years and excelled at discretion. "What precisely are you seeking, Margaret?" he asked. "How they're poaching contracts that belong to us," I replied. "And any pattern in their new wins." The report arrived 2 weeks later, confirming my hunch. Every major client Preston stole was one I'd held preliminary talks with. Somehow they accessed my strategies, pricing, client requirements. Yet here's what Sarah ignored. I'd never truly coveted those contracts. They were marginal, convoluted, or risk-laden. I deployed them as decoys while pursuing genuine prizes. Sarah believed she outmaneuvered me. In reality, she helped prune problematic accounts while I harvested the premium ones. Preston absorbed the headaches. Whitman retained the bounty. It would have been masterful if I'd orchestrated it. The invitation to David and Sarah's 5th anniversary arrived on embossed card stock with gold script. Cocktails, dinner, dancing at Riverside Country Club to honor their journey. I said yes, though the event reeked of theater. Sarah had orchestrated it for months, treating it like a corporate launch rather than marital milestone. "It will be flawless," she gushed over pre-party lunch. "I've invited all the key players, Preston partners, the mayor, chamber president. It's networking as much as celebration, of course." With Sarah, everything served ambition. The soiree unfolded exactly as predicted: opulent, extravagant, engineered to dazzle. Sarah glided in a black gown likely costing a month's wage for most, working the room like a candidate. "Margaret, thrilled you made it," she said, materializing with a rehearsed smile. "You recall the Hendersons from that account I closed?" I did. Jim Henderson approached, sheepish. "Mrs. Whitman, no hard feelings on the contract." "Business is business, certainly," I answered smoothly. "Hope Preston meets expectations." Jim's grin strained. "Some implementation hurdles more complex than advertised." Sarah's laugh ran overly bright. "Jim's a perfectionist. We'll resolve minor glitches." After they departed, I pondered those minor glitches. In my experience, such phrasing masked major crises. Dinner featured tributes from friends lauding Sarah's acumen and David's marketing success. Sarah basked, toasting each accolade. Then David's speech praised his extraordinary wife's ascent at Preston. Record sales, future dominion. "Sarah isn't in business, she is business," he beamed. "She's taught me strategy, negotiation. One day she helmed her own empire." Applause thundered. Sarah stood for a bow, calculation glinting behind her smile. This wasn't a party. It was a candidacy rally. Yet something shifted post-dinner. Near the bar, I overheard to Preston partners. Henderson update. One whispered, catastrophe, the other hissed, threatening early termination. Sarah oversold deliverables impossible on their budget. Third account this quarter. Leadership's probing. They spotted me and pivoted topics, but I'd heard plenty. Sarah's stellar sales were fracturing. As the evening waned, Sarah cornered me at coat check. Margaret, I've been reflecting. You've managed your little consultancy forever. Retirement might suit. I could find a beer. Her tone dripped maternal concern, but her eyes betrayed predation. Thoughtful, I said, claiming my coat. I'll consider driving home. I realized Sarah wasn't merely competitive, she sought to eradicate rivals. How far would she extend? Marcus called Tuesday morning, voice neutral code for trouble. Margaret, office this afternoon? 2 hours later, amid mahogany splendor, he unveiled documents that chilled me. Someone probed acquiring Whitman's strategic client lists, assets, succession. The offer from Preston was insultingly low. Arrived yesterday, Marcus said. But the kicker, they possessed data they shouldn't, client names, contract values, overhead, someone inside fed Preston intel. Timing aligned with unsolicited. Preston proposals mirroring my services to long-term clients. My anger surged, echoing the fury when my late husband faced office sabotage. Next steps. I asked, reject. Trace the leak. Marcus leaned in. Anyone in your circle with motive? My loyal team, Janet 12 years, Robert and Linda career long, had none. Then Sarah's retirement nudges, client queries at dinners flashed. Investigate family Preston ties, I instructed. Marcus nodded. Friday. The week crawled. Friday, Marcus summoned. Documents painted betrayal. Payments from Preston to Sarah Wilson for consulting. Over 8 months, timed with their contract thefts. She'd weaponized family talks to sabotage me while posing as dutiful in law. Her fatal misstep, assuming I was a minor player. She ignored my empire's breadth. Marcus, draft documents, I said, smiling genuinely. The kind that terminate games. Next Sunday dinner at David and Sarah's sprawling colonial. I parked, envelope of proof in purse. Sarah had undermined me nearly a year, unaware Preston was my subsidiary acquired. Quietly 3 years prior during their distress. Restructured under my silent majority. Her success inflated my dual profits. Irony savored, tonight demanded justice. David greeted enthusiastically. Perfect timing. Sarah opened your favorite wine. Sarah appeared, flawless, smile radiant. Margaret, you look marvelous, absent betrayal knowledge. Eyed by her sincerity. She was a stellar performer. Dinner showcased Sarah's extravagant, costly ingredients. Instagram plating, funded by my pilfered gains. Exciting news, she announced post-entree. Preston's launching strategic acquisitions. They want me to lead, David beamed. Tell Mom the salary 200,000 base, plus bonuses, Sarah savored. They say I excel at spotting undervalued firms for profitable takeover, I nodded. Promising. First target. Her eyes sparkled. Confidential, but a small consultancy ripe for absorption. Aging owner, likely retiring, valuable clients to exploit. Name, I pressed. Whitman Strategic Solutions, she crowed. They fancy themselves competitors, but they're mom and pop with antiquated ways. Post-acquisition, we modernize, triple revenue, David faltered. Wait, isn't that yes? I interrupted calmly, extracting envelope. My company, Sarah blanched. Your what? I produced Preston's org chart. My name is 67% owner. 3 years mine, Sarah gaped. Impossible. You volunteer and helm a multi-million-dollar empire, I finished. The one you've sabotaged while drawing. Salary from my subsidiary, David. Ping-ponged gazes. Wham. You never said, irrelevant until now, second document, payment records. Sarah sold Whitman intel from family dinners. Sarah trembled. Margaret, it was strategy to aid Preston by family betrayal. I countered. By thieving from your wedding benefactor. Silence ticked with the dining clock. Sarah's facade cracked, ambition bared. Now what? David whispered. I slid termination letter. Immediate dismissal. Systems access revoked. Paycheck adjusted for disclosure breach. Sarah rasped. You can't. Contract, rights, legal counsel advised, I said. Marcus has espionage dossier, David pleaded. Mom, she's family. Family doesn't steal. Lie, manipulate, I cut. She knew theft. Ignored ownership. Sarah rallied. You think victory? I've industry contacts, buried bodies. Few calls ruin Preston, threat lingered. I withdrew NDA, signed at higher prohibits disparagement, confidential leaks. Breach, 5 million damages, fees, criminal charges. Call away, Sarah deflated, checkmate clear. One more, I said, rising. David, Preston shares to you early inheritance. Education, his jaw dropped. I know nothing, you'll learn. Competent team awaits minus her. At door, Sarah begged. Wait, apologize, restitution, career built on theft, I said. I'm dismantling stolen base, what now? She wailed. New vocation sans trust, driving home, satisfaction bloomed. Sarah pegged age, kindness as frailty. She learned some rules elude her grasp. Marcus texted, Monday meeting set. Chairman announcement. Feels like home, I replied. Dawn 2 days later, David called, voice ragged. Sarah's phoned all-night clients. Claiming you're unstable, forged docs. Elder abuse. I admired her desperation, not acuity. Lawyers. 3 refused espionage unpalatable, injunction ready, I instructed. By noon, Sarah struck. Business reporter queried Preston on fraud, elder abuse. Allegations flimsy, yet doubt seeding. Emergency board, I presented acquisition proofs, Sarah's breaches. Management-backed transparency, lawsuit. Text from unknown, not over, Marcus grinned, defamation gift. Next morning, Business Journal headline, family financial scandal. Sarah spun me as abuser, herself whistleblower. Plausible sans proof, Marcus conceded. Counters people's biases. David phoned, distant. Mom, did you entrap Sarah? Question stung. If planned, would I need investigation? Silence. You hid ownership, success secrets. I invited him over. Timeline ready, post-father's death, modest firm. 50 grand savings plus his forgotten patent. Licensed for farmer waste reduction. Royalties exploded 12 million over 15 years. Acquired firms, built network. Preston one cog. Kept secret for genuine bonds, not inheritance sway, David absorbed. Sarah never knew full structure, then the uncomfortable. I'd probed her at dinners. Encouraging overconfidence for evidence. Manipulation, he asked. Response to her espionage, final folder, Pi report. Sarah Kellerman fired thrice for espionage fraud. Targeted wealthy marks, married for access. David's union calculated. Known yesterday, I said. Delayed to shield you legally. Phone, Marcus Sarah filed police. Report, my abuse, threats, escalation. Police station next day, evidence box. Played Sarah's extortion voicemail to million or ruin. Stacks, espionage, fraud history. Texts plotting management of me. Attempted $500,000 theft. Security video, Sarah admitting dinner intel theft. Detective recommended charges, espionage. Fraud, theft attempt, false report. David apologized. Trusted wrong, you trusted spouse correctly, yours to do. 6 months on, Sarah convicted, 5 years federal. David divorced cleanly, retained assets. I publicized ownership, active across empire. At 73, busiest, happiest in decades. Revenge unnecessary. Underestimation ceased. Sentencing night. David and I dined where Sarah toasted my hunger. Ironic, I said. Glasses raised. She was right, I am hungry. For honesty, thanks for listening. Subscribe, share your story below. Your voice matters.